garden coach. We're going to wait for people to sign on, and I'm just opening up the chat page, but I need to move it over. So we're just going to move it over. Oh, there it is. Okay. So I can see if you chat any messages this time. We're redoing this every week. And we've decided instead of doing a PowerPoint that we're going to have me up on the screen so you can actually you pretend like someone, well, like you have somebody talking to you. So, okay. I just saw an interesting message. And I'm going to wait to see how many people get signed on. And we'll get started in the next 3 minutes. So welcome, welcome, everybody. How do you like my setup here behind me? I've got geraniums and caladiums, and I have one of the stars of the season right here. And this is the new disease-resistant impatiens. They are back, and they're called Beacon. They're Beacon impatiens, and they've been tested worldwide, and this variety is the most disease-resistant. So we can use these gorgeous fun annuals back in our shade areas again. So they're back, and we have all the colors here at Chalet. So I'm going to put her back in this corner just so she's looking over my shoulder here. Oh, she looks pretty good. Okay. Now, hey, thank you. Someone just said a beautiful setup. Love the chat. You know, I was about to mention that when I did. Thank you so much. Well, so what I'm going to do, the format that we decided is going to be the best each week for Garden Coach is I'm going to talk about the 3 most important things each week that you should be focusing on. And number 1 this week is, wow, how are our landscape plants handling all the rain that we had? And the news has been, you know, record-breaking rainfall because we had over 8 inches. Well, guess what? It came in 1 weekend. A year ago, when we broke the record for the most rain in May, it was every day, every day, every day. And unfortunately, what happened was it waterlogged our soils. And so the poor plants, when they were trying to make their roots and have their roots grow, there was waterlogged soil. And it's waterlogged, no oxygen, and roots need oxygen to metabolize. Well, this time it was just heavy all at once. We were really dry for the first part of the month, and then we had this heavy rainfall. To be really honest, the plants are loving it. And you can see, I've noticed in my own garden, the hostas have been increasing in height at least 4 inches every day. I go to work and they're these little short stubby things, come home from work and they're up high again. All of the trees and shrubs are loving it too. Now they're just making their leaves. Now, if you've got standing water someplace, you have all my empathy. I live in a house that used to flood. The basement would flood every time we would have more than 2 inches of rain. So you have my empathy, and you know, until it drains away, it's a problem. What I want to make sure that you are not doing right now, and you don't want to get out and dig in the garden. You don't want to add the amendments and dig through because you're going to ruin the structure of the soil. You don't want to plant a lot. Now, you can always test because we had a beautiful day yesterday, no rain. We're having a gorgeous day today, no rain. You can test your soil. Go out and grab a handful of the soil and squeeze it like this. And then when you open your hand up, if the clump of soil is still sitting in the palm of your hand and you can see where your fingers were imprinted in it, that means the soil is too wet. If the soil falls apart in your hand when you open your hand up, that means it's dry enough to work. So, but if the clump stays there, don't dig, and please don't walk around in the garden, because any footstep that you make is compressing that soil, compacting the soil, and then you ruin the structure. Now, it's also not real good to walk on the lawn when it's like that. And I know I tested my own lawn, and it was squishy like a damp sponge. So if you hear that squishiness, don't walk on it, because every footprint you make is going to compact that soil and compress that soil. And then really the only thing to fix it is to core aerate, later in the season. You don't want to do it now. You want to do it at the end of the growing season, but don't do that. Now, after telling you what you can't do in the garden, what you should be doing right now is thinking back on what plants were showing leaf spots and any stem blights last year. And those are the plants that you want to treat. You want to do a protectant on them right now. And my favorite products are Immunox. Immunox is a systemic fungicide that you spray on the leaves and the stems of the plants, and it's absorbed in and stays in for 14 days, 2 whole weeks, even if it rains. So if you would spray today and it would rain tomorrow night, big deal. It's systemic, it's absorbed in. And what it does is that fungicide is pulled in, it's what we call translaminar systemic. All you have to do is spray one surface of a leaf, and then the cells all pull it through the whole part of the leaves. And if it's already been inoculated, which there's a good chance that the spore, when we were warmer, the spore was being released and it lands on those leaves and inoculates the leaf. That's the term for the disease getting into the plant. It's inoculating the leaf. And it takes 6 to 8 weeks for those lesions to appear. So nothing shows up until then. By the time those lesions or spots, those are the spots, by the time the spots show up, it's too late. And so the disease is already active. Now, with these systemic fungicides, if you spray them, it stays in the leaf. If the fungus is already in there, it will kill it. So you're really protecting. So you want to spray roses, peonies, those are a given, roses and peonies, lilacs, crab apples, any of those types of plants that get those leaf spots. There's apple scab on the crab apples and the apples. That will protect them. And you can either hand spray with a ready to spray bottle, or you can put it in the hose-in sprayers that will spray up to 25 feet. And it just depends on the length of the hose you're using and your water pressure. But it's really a great thing to use. Now, there are also drenches, and the Bio Advanced company has this phenomenal product called the Rose and Flower All-in-One. It's a total care. It has a great fertilizer, it has a great fungicide and a great insecticide, but you mix it with water and it has to be drenched into the soil. So if it's still pretty soggy, you're better off to really protect the plants by spraying them, right now. Now, if you've got vegetables you're trying to protect, and it's a little early for you to have vegetables out in your garden, but if you've got kales and things like that, and this weekend's supposed to be nice and warm if your soils are dry enough, and you can get your tomatoes and your peppers and your cucumbers in, but spray with a fungicide. And one of the best ones is it's from Bonide, and it's called Tomato and Vegetable Protector. It is made with sulfur, which works to prevent fungal problems, and also an organically derived pyrethrin. And you can spray that, that on the plants. Or if you don't want to use an insecticide right now, you're waiting for pollination, use a copper fungicide from Bonide also. And it's actually called Copper Soap or Copper Actinoate. And the company that made that is Neudorf. And they just do wonderful work. And it's a liquid. And so it covers and coats very, very well. It does wash off in the rain, so you do have to reapply. But it's earth-friendly natural. It's not going to affect anything that's edible. I use it on my basil. When the basil can get downy mildew, and I use it on my basil, and it protects it really well. So now so I covered what not to do and what to do. Now let's look at the different questions that you all have sent in, when you registered. And I've got another chat up here. Hello, when do I prune my limelight hydrangea and how much? Well, the cool thing about limelight is that it flowers on new wood, and it's one of those hydrangeas you do not have to prune unless it's got a branch that's growing out across the sidewalk. And so if that's the case, you're the master of your garden and you can prune it back as far as you want. But otherwise, you don't want to prune limelights because the new growth is going to start where you grow it. Now, if you planted it in a spot where it is too big already, then you can prune as much as 1/3 of the height of the branches, and then prune 1/3 of the older branches out, and you'll get new wood and new flowering. But any of the paniculata types like limelight, you don't have to prune. That's why I love them. So okay, now let's go with the questions that were sent in. Okay, I have an invasive weed in my perennial bed. I pull it up and it comes back. how do I get rid of it? And it has killed some of my plants. How to identify it? Well, the best way to identify it is take a photo and send it to us at Chalet. The best place to send questions these days is hello@chaletnursery.com, and it gets directed to the person that can answer the question. So you can always send those photos. But I'm going to go ahead and address also how to trim boxwoods and what plants would be good in certain areas. Okay, that's a big general question. I'm going to stick with the specifics. Okay, now in the perennial bed, when you have an invasive weed like that, we used to use Roundup, and that was glyphosate was the active ingredient, and it was a wonderful product until it got such a bad reputation. And so the replacement for it now is from a company called, it's actually the same company that makes the BioAdvanced, and it's called Natria, Natria. And the one that's going to get rid of an invasive weed in a perennial bed is the Natria grass and weed killer, and it kills the top of the plant, and it also is translocated down and kills the root. Now it's made from it's a derivative from the apple plant, and it's called maleic hydrazide, and it's wonderful. And you spray it. Now you want to cover up the perennials in the bed with newspaper or brown paper bags so that the chemical doesn't, or the liquid doesn't touch the leaves of the desirable plants. But then spray the leaves that you want. It actually kills in 10 minutes. And then, it will brown out usually in 5 to 10 days, and then it kills the root. Now, so then you can pull it out. You can actually plant in the area the very next day. So it's a wonderful product. So, okay, so that's that. Now, trimming boxwoods, we either suggest you prune them you want to prune them before the new growth starts. So you're still in that window, and you can prune as much as a third of the height. The rule of thumb when you're doing evergreens like that is, just say that, this is my arm is here, and my fingers and it right here are the green part of the foliage on the boxwood. You never want to cut more than half of the green. If you cut all the way down into the woody parts, it's too much. Now, boxwood could recover from that, but most evergreens do not. So the rule of thumb is you never want to cut more than a third of the height of a plant, because more than that, you're going to put the plant into stress. And when the plant's in stress, it's more susceptible to diseases, and it attracts more insects. So always follow that rule of thumb. And you can do that, ideally, you want to do that every 3 years for good maintenance. For rejuvenation, you can do it 3 years in a row, but never more than a third at a time. Good rule to know. Good rule to know. Okay, so what is the product you recommend to put in the soil to kill Japanese beetle larvae? Okay, that product is called Grub-X, and Grub-X is made by the Scott's Company, and the active ingredient is called chlorantraniliprole. Fun name, huh? But it's a cool new insecticide. It only kills 5 different insects, and those are the 2 different grubs, the Japanese beetle and the annual white grub. Also chinch bug, and then bill bugs, and then another one that we never get here. And what's cool about it is it doesn't go after the neurotransmitters of the insects. It only goes after, it works on the calcium ports in the muscles. And what happens is if the insect crawls through it when it's in the soil, or ingests a plant that's absorbed the insecticide in its roots, then the insect's muscles, the calcium ports open up, and all the calcium floods out and it paralyzes the insect. Now, it doesn't kill them right away, but it stops them from causing more damage. So if you've got, grubs in the lawn, they're not gonna eat more roots. So you're gonna save your lawn. Unfortunately, it doesn't kill them right away. So if you've got animals digging up, looking in your yard, and the raccoons have been horrible. I've had 3 people come to me with photos, and they're holes that are about 3 inches deep, circular, about 1 inch in diameter, and the raccoons are doing it at night. And what they're doing is they're digging up the grubs as the grubs are coming up to the surface from being down below grade in the wintertime. And then pretty soon they're gonna pupate, and then they stay pupated for about anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, depending on the temperature of the soil. And then they emerge as Japanese beetles and or June beetles. June beetles come first. And so what happens is the skunks and the raccoons can hear them underground, and they dig them up looking and eating for them. If you want to stop that digging, you want to use a repellent. And our favorite ones, number one is plant skeed. There's also Repelsol, and that repels like a list of about 15 animals. And you can sprinkle it over the area where the animals are digging, and then it lasts for 2 months and keeps the animals repelled. So that's what you want to do, you know, to prevent that grub thing. Okay, when and how do you prune clematis or clematis, however you say it? And okay, the clematis or clematis that are hardy here are the types, and they're in a number of groups, but the ones that are here flower on new wood. So as the new growth is starting. So if you have a clematis that is 5 feet tall up on a trellis, and it's going to start growing from that point, then the flowers are going to be way up high and, you know, not at your eye level. So we always recommend that you prune the clematis down to 3 feet from the ground. And now is the perfect time because, and we're a little late because of the coolness that we've had the last 3 weeks, but you should see buds starting to open. So you come down to the juiciest, fattest buds and prune a 1/2 inch above them, and, you know, and prune them all at about 3 feet, you know, and then those will start growing. And then when they go into bloom, you'll have the flowers right at eye level, which is really what we want. We want to be able to see those blooms. So that's so wonderful. Now, some people will do a trick where they prune a third of the vines to 3 feet, a third to 2 feet, and a third to 1 feet. And what that does is that extends your bloom time. So you extend your bloom by 3 weeks if you do that. You know, so, you know, if you really want to be fussy, you can do that. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. All right, now, how should hydrangeas be totally pruned now? The only ones that should be totally pruned to the ground are the Annabelles. All right, now the macrophylla types like the Endless Summers and in Bloomstruck, those varieties, they actually were hybridized and selected because they bloomed on old wood and new wood all season long. That's what was called Endless Summer. But unfortunately, it's a macrophylla, and we don't get the snow cover that they do up in Minneapolis, where the Endless Summer was selected and discovered. And so a lot of our macrophylla types have dead branches all the way down out of the ground. And so to prevent that from happening, you have to mulch them. You put a wire cage around them and fill it with chunk bark mulch over the winter, and move that before the new growth starts. Some are showing buds coming on those, you know, opening up on those bare stems. Most of them are showing growth from the ground. Now, there's a good chance that they're not going to flower, you know, this season. And that's why I've lost faith in all of the macrophylla types. My favorites are the paniculatas. And I talked about that at the beginning. So you don't have to prune those just if they're growing out of their thing. So if you have a specific question about which one you have, you know, go ahead and send that to help@shalleynursery.com and send a photo, and we'll be able to tell you what you have. Or we can look it up if you bought it here and remind you which ones you had. Okay, so now the next, and I'm looking to see, will rabbits or other critters eat zinnia sprouts? How to plant seeds and put in the peat pots. Okay, okay, hold on, excuse me, I'm gonna choke. I'm sorry. Okay, all right, and then, okay, here we go. Okay, when clematis, if they're already nearly flowering, do you still cut them down to 3 feet and cut off the taller buds? No. If you already have flower buds formed, don't cut them off. Enjoy it and then prune it afterwards. Excuse me. Let me get a sip of water. That's the problem when you talk all the time like me. Okay, I'm ready to go back. Okay, here we go. Now, I have many, but one row is by my house. Sometimes I fall over after a big high winds. Okay, should I be putting a wire fence or some other kind next to keep them up? Oh, this is a question about how to stake and how to support and I bet you have Annabelles if that's what's happening. We have beautiful, wonderful support products here that have arching, and we have circles that can go around the plant, and you can set them over. Right now they might be too big. Get half circles that come up from one side and support it, and a half circle from up the other side, and then stick them in the ground, and you can wire them together. They're wonderful. We also have undulating wires that hold them up, so it doesn't look like they're tied up. The stems are just kind of held in position, and they're undulating back and forth. So it's a wonderful product. I'm so sorry I've forgotten the name of it, but when you ask, you can ask anyone when you come in, they'll direct you to those supports. They're phenomenal. I love those. Okay, now, are you annually adding organic matter to your soil besides an organic mulch? I'm having the worst time keeping newer perennials plants alive, throughout the winter. And these are hardy zone 5 perennials. The problem with those is in our heavy clay soil, those perennials just don't like it if we have wet winters. And we were pretty good this winter. We actually had a nice fall where everything cooled off, so the plants were able to go dormant like they should. But it never hurts, it never ever hurts to add organic matter. And you can mulch with 2 inches of organic matter all around where your perennials are. The chalet leaf mulch is ideal. It's absolutely ideal. I love the Cottonburr compost. It's a hybrid cross between leaf mulch and like a bark mulch. And it comes in 2 cubic foot bags, and you just mulch around the plants. You want to stay 6 inches. This is 6 inches from here to here, 6 inches away from the crown. If the crown of the plant starts right here, stay away from that, so that that you don't have any moisture held around the crown, because you can cause the plant to rot. And that's one of our biggest problems here. Now, there's also a great product that is called Clay Soil Perfector, and it's a granular that you can take a garden fork and stick it in the ground and rock it back and forth, pull it out, and then sprinkle those particles in the holes that the garden fork makes. The soil closes back up, and then it holds and aerates the soil, and also helps it, get oxygen down, into the soil. So that's one of the best things you can do with an existing perennial bed if it's staying a little too moist with our heavy clay soil. And again, I take my garden fork and stick it north, south, east, and west. And then I also do spokes, like the radius of wheel spokes, and then put that granular in the Espoma Clay Soil Protector. Oh my gosh, it can fix any bad soil that's out there. Really, really, really good. Okay, so the next one, I should have people's names with these, but I don't, I'm sure you'll recognize the question that I read when I read out. Okay, please explain a succulent repotting procedure and watering. Well, now succulents, and we have this fun trend of wanting to have succulents in our houses, and so then they get potted in containers with no drainage. And so you have to be very careful when you're doing the watering, so that you just don't get water building up in the bottom of the container. Ideally, you want to have the succulents in a container with drainage. You can water, let it drain, water and let it drain each time you water. And then that hydrates everything, hydrates the roots. And so the best thing is, again, if you've got it in a container with no drainage, plan on repotting every year or every 18 months. And you're taking the root ball out, dumping any of the moist soil in the bottom, or if you have gravel and horticultural chalk on the bottom, freshen that up and then just repot. But succulents are some of those plants that you almost never have to repot. They don't grow that much, and they just stay static in a container. So if you're having problems, then and send a photo to us, and we can tell you whether it really needs to be repotted or not. You want to use a good mix, and we sell a mix from Espoma that is a succulent mix, and it's 1/3 sand, coarse sand. You can make your own. Use a good quality potting mix like the Chalet mix, and then coarse sand, and do 1 part sand and 2 parts of the potting mix. And then that gives really good sharp drainage. You want sharp drainage so the water never sticks around the root balls, because that's what they're used to growing in when they're in the desert. Mostly sand, the water drains away quickly. Okay, the next question is, which variety of broccoli gives the most flowers? Technically, broccoli they always give, a lot of flowers. So it doesn't really, it's the way you harvest. So your first harvest, you'll see that flowers, bud at the top, you cut that off and then eat it. That's your first dinner of broccoli. And then you get side branches that keep growing, and then just keep harvesting those, and then they produce side branches. So all of them are designed, to have, really good florets. That's what you're eating. The broccoli that we eat is the flowering head that comes up. Really good question. Really good question. And the companies that we sell, like the Botanical Interests and Renee's Gardens, and then and then Seed Savers. They have wonderful. Those are the seeds that were brought by our ancestors with them when they migrated to our country. And so you just can't beat a Seed Saver seed, because they're tried and true. All right. What is the best way to care for strawberry plants, at this time of year? That's a great question. I actually was out spraying my own with the copper fungicide because of all the rain that we were having and our fluctuating temperatures, the warm and cool and warm and cool. So I was noticing a little bit of gray mold showing up on mine. And so spray with that copper, and you spray once a week, and it really does the trick. It takes care of it. And so a good question, very good question. Okay, the next question, what is proper pruning? Oh, for limelight. Oh, we already talked about that. I think you came in twice. Okay, and for tree for tree hydrangeas, when you have a tree form hydrangea, that means that the variety, whether it's limelight or the strawberry sundae or vanilla strawberries, they're grafted onto a trunk that is upright. And so then they're usually about 4 feet tall. And so when you think about those plants getting to be about 4 feet, growing 4 feet each year, you cut it back a third, or even half. You can cut all those branches back a half, and then all the new growth comes. And most of these are the paniculata types, so they flower on new wood that are coming. So it's the PGs, the paniculata. The PG is Paniculata grandiflora. That's what PG stands for, and that was the original hydrangea that we had around here that was wonderful and bloomed all the time. Okay, here we go. And how do I dig up new shoots from my burning bushes? Oh, okay. Well, they resprout new shoots. Okay. Now, burning bush is one of those that can get very invasive, and the shoots will grow. So you can sever them. What I like to do is I like to wait till you have a shoot that's coming up away from the main trunk, and you want at least three to five stems coming up out of the ground, so it's a little more mature. And then you can come in and dig it up and sever it off from the runner. That's the runner is called the root that runs out away, and then make sure it has some roots on it, and then pot it in a different place out in the garden, or pot it in plant it in a different garden, or pot it in a pot and let it grow until it gets a larger size. Be careful using burning bushes and propagating a lot of them, because they're one of the plants that they're trying to put on a white list that they think it's too invasive around here. But that's how you do it, and that's how you do any bush that has any runners, like that. Okay. Now, can I successfully move an established hydrangea plant to another location in the garden? Depends on which variety it is. If it's an Annabelle, it would have been better to do that last fall, and because you're going to disrupt the flowering sequence of it. The paniculatas you can do now, and then you will just delay the bloom time a little bit, but do it sooner than later, because as we get warm, I would have loved to have this question 2 to 3 weeks ago and said, go ahead and do it. And there would have been 3 weeks to ruin them before we're going to get into the 70s and 80s and degrees. So might be a little late for that one. All right. So the next question is an idea for a ground cover in deep shade under oak trees. Oh, that's a great question. I absolutely love epimediums. And epimediums it's also called bishop's cap because the flowers are three-cornered. They're three-cornered. And they are wonderful. They look like little wiry plants. They look very, very delicate, but they're little toughies, and they grow clumps. So you'd have to grow several of them together so to get that ground cover effect. But they can tolerate competition from tree roots. So that's my ideal favorite. And they bloom early in the spring or late in spring or early summer. And then you have these just wonderful little off-center heart-shaped leaves, and it just looks gorgeous under, and it can fill the whole area. I like it under maples as well. So that's my favorite. That's my absolute favorite. Okay. Okay, here we go. What's a good ground cover for full shade area? Well, the classic ground cover for full shade is the Pachysandra. And Pachysandra is known as the king of the shade because it is beautiful. It's a beautiful ground cover. And it is one of the few plants out there in our landscapes that hates to be in sun. When it says a shade-loving plant, it means shade-loving plant. And many people have experienced when we've lost, especially losing ash trees that has been happening so much around here, then all of a sudden an ash tree comes down and here's the Pachysandra bed is in full sun, and all of a sudden it yellows out. So that's what happens to, to Pachysandra if it's ever in sun, but it is ideal for the shade, absolutely ideal for the shade. That's my number one favorite. Okay, now what's a good ground cover? Oh, I did that already. How often should shrub roses be fertilized? Excellent question. And hydrangeas and azaleas. Okay, shrub roses and hydrangeas. Okay, my favorite fertilizer for flowering shrubs is the Dr. Earth Bud and Bloom because it has a 9% phosphorus in it. So, just great elevated. And what's great about that product is that it lasts for 60 days, 2 whole months. And it's 1 cup every 10 square feet. I think in terms of, a shrub rose or a hydrangea being in the center of a 3-foot by 3-foot area, that's 9 square feet. So you're going to put almost a whole cup all around underneath the plant and just water it in. You can put it on top of mulch. It's okay. It will work its way down into the ground level every time it rains or every time you water, and it'll be ideal. And so I would do that right now. This is the, into May, 1st of June, and then do it again the 1st of August. And you're going to have gorgeous flowers on your roses, and you're going to have hydrangeas that behave really well and bloom all the time. So that's great. Oh, azaleas. Now azaleas, what it is in azaleas, you want to hold off, don't flower them, or don't water them until after they finish blooming. Not water. Don't fertilize them. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the questions here. You want to wait till they finish blooming, because if you fertilize azaleas and rhododendrons too early, what happens is, okay, I use my wrist a lot, don't I? Okay, this is the flower bud right here, and where my wrist is. Okay, right below the flower bud are the buds, and there's usually about 3 to 5, that are at the end of the branch right below the bud. They start growing. As soon as the flower is finished, then they start growing to give the new growth for the new season. Now, if you fertilize too early, you'll trigger those vegetative buds to get active. They'll start growing and pop the flower bud off and abort the flower bud. So wait till they're finished flowering, and then you can either use Hollytone. I kind of like using just sulfur around the base of the rhododendrons and azaleas to lower the pH. Garden sulfur, 1/2 cup around the base of each plant. That lasts 6 months. And then use the Dr. Earth Bud and Bloom, because boy, anytime you can give them that wonderful phosphorus, you're going to get many, many more flowers. So that's my favorite. Hollytone works, but I like Dr. Earth Bud and Bloom. It's turned into my favorite. I know I shouldn't play favorites, but it is. Okay, now when adding compost to the garden, should it be worked into the soil or spread over the top? That's a great question. I like to do both. Now, if you're just planting, if you're doing a whole new garden, a whole new bed, like a flower bed, a perennial bed, or your vegetable garden, I like to work the organic matter into the top 6 to 8 inches, and then I'll mulch over the top with 2 inches afterwards, of the same mulch. And that's a great thing to do. Now, if you've already got a prepared bed and you don't want to dig up and damage any roots of the plants, the existing plants, then just mulch with that organic matter. And all of the insects that are in the soil help carry it up and down and, bring that organic matter down into the soil. So mulching every season, every season, spring and fall, is ideal. And that helps add that organic matter on a regular basis. Okay, so now I have a couple more. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to honor some of the people because you've been so nice and patient with the chat. And clematis. With clematis, if they're already nearly flowering, I already answered that. Cool. Okay, what's the best way to stake tomatoes? Also, is there a good little fence to keep our dog out of the garden? Yeah. Okay. All right. The best way to stake tomatoes is to get the tomato rings. And I love the tomato rings. And they're circular. We also have cages that are square, and you just put them up around the outside of the tomatoes. There's also a curlicue. I haven't seen it this year. That was really cool. That it was a stake that was a spiral, and you had the lead of the tomato grow up through that, and the branches kind of hung up over it. I haven't seen if we're carrying that, and I shouldn't talk about it if we don't have it. But I like the rings. I like the rings, and I like the ones that are larger at the base than the top, because when you get a really full tomato plant loaded with fruit, you have that conical shape and it'll tend to tip over. So I like the ones that are more pyramidal shape, and I have them for all my tomatoes at my house. And again, the cages are good because they're square sided, and you just box the tomato in, and you can have the branches coming out, from the edges. So, okay, so now the little fence to keep the dog out of the garden. Okay, it's a rabbit fence that we sell, and it's actually 18 inches tall, and then it opens up there. It comes in 2-foot sections, and it's a grid, and it has these little spikes that go down through, and each of the corners sort of links up like my knuckles are linking up with hoops, and then the spike comes down through and goes right in the ground. You can set the fence up in 20 minutes all around your garden. It is the coolest thing, and it's a kit. And if you buy one kit, it's 2 by 2, 2 by 2, so it's four square feet. And so I bought, I think, 6 to line my whole vegetable garden, and it keeps the rabbits out. It would keep a little dog out. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And it's, and you can leave it up, year round. It's really great. So, okay, now I'm going to get back to some of the other questions that were sent, and I'll come back to your chat in just a minute. Okay. And, all right. Okay, here we go. Oh, well, this question is a little too involved. It says, how to design a pathway bed and partly sunny leading to a front door. Well, we have a kind of a rule at our information office, our information desk, where we can only spend 5 minutes, with somebody. And this question would probably take more than 5 minutes. But what you want to do is follow that rule of 3 that I was talking about, and find your favorite plant in the sun. And, I would even do along a pathway bed like that. I would do one of the creeping roses, one of the ground cover roses, and put one on one side of the path, one on the other side of the path, and then one up ahead. So it guides you along the path. Your eye sees this, and then follows that, and then follows that. And then echo with other perennials and on a pathway, I don't like to have them too tall, the plant's too tall, because you don't want to block the vision of the path. But it depends, depends on where the pathway, it's leading to the front door. Okay, so you don't want to have, something too large, because what you want to have people see is the front door, and you're guiding people to that front door. So contact us and send a question to hello@shelleynursery.com, and we'll send you some of the neat handouts with the best perennials and some of the best shrubs that would be great in a sunny location like that. Great question, though. Okay, the next one, is, boxwood disease. All right, now what we've seen on boxwood a year ago was classic. In February of 2019, we had that polar vortex. We went from 27 degrees in one day all the way down to 29 below zero, which was like a zone 3 event. It was like Minnesota weather. And all of the plants and the boxwood that were next to light colored walls or dark colored walls, like buildings or driveways or sidewalks where the ambient heat had warmed up and reflected on the plants had thawed out and were doing some active growth. And then when the temperature dropped that abruptly, it was extreme freeze burn, or frost burn. Now, the other things that we see in this area are Volutella stem blight, and it's also called boxwood stem canker. And we've been dealing with that. I've been dealing with that with the 30 years that I've been in this business. And it comes and goes depending on the warm, humid weather in the summertime. And Volutella is something that can pass back and forth between Pachysandra and boxwood, both shade-loving plants that live together. And the big scare it's been 3 years ago now, when the boxwood blight that moved in from England and into the East Coast was heading our way. And we had an unscrupulous landscaper that bought plants out of Virginia and brought them here. He got them cheap, put them in a landscape up in our area, and they had the boxwood blight. And the neat thing is, the USDA and the Illinois Department of Agriculture were on top of it. And they made this landscape company dig those plants up, double bag them in paper bags, burn them and bury them, and then replace all the soil. So I have not seen the boxwood blight in the area since then. And I've been reading all about it. There are cases down in the St. Louis area, but not that many up in this area at all. So what we're dealing with is the Volutella stem blight. And one of the best things you can use is, there's a product, again, it's the Rose All-in-One. It has a phenomenal systemic fungicide called, oh my gosh, myclobutanil. And you mix it up, 1 ounce per foot of plant height of the boxwood in a quart of water. So most boxwoods are 4 feet tall. So that's 4 ounces, 4 quarts is a gallon. And you mix that together and then pour that right down the center of the plant. Now the Bio-Advanced All-in-One has a great fertilizer, the fungicide, and the insecticide in it. And you do that drench. It lasts for 6 weeks. So you do it 3 times in the growing season, ideally starting April 15th, then June 1st, and then July 15th. We're coming up to, June 1st. So you're going to do it June 1st or right now, and then again, July 15th. And that'll take care of it for the whole season. It's wonderful. There's also a Bonide product that has the fungicide, myclobutanil, and the insecticide without a fertilizer. So you can use either one, and they work beautiful. They work beautifully, to take care of the boxwood. The other damage, when you're talking about boxwood disease, is an insect actually, and it moved into the area. It'll be 6 years ago now, and it's called boxwood leaf miner, and it's a little tiny kind of a gnat. It's a golden colored gnat that emerges in May, the end of May, early June. And then they don't have to feed. The adults just mate and then lay eggs. And then those eggs hatch and the larvae burrow in between the epidermal layers of the leaves. So they're feeding on the cells in between the epidermal layers called the mesophyll. And they live inside, in between those layers all season long, feeding the whole summer. And then they go dormant in winter. And then all of a sudden over winter, the leaves turn golden yellow, and it looks like freezer burn. So most people think that they had winter burn, but it's actually the insect. So you can bring samples in, or you can do this at home yourself. Just get a paper clip or a sharp knife and peel open one of those leaves. You can look on the back side and see holes, the entry holes and the exit holes. Peel it open, you can actually see the larva crawling around in there right now. It's pretty cool. I mean, you do need scientific detachment if you're not used to that. And then what will happen, they will pupate in the next 10 days, and then those pupa last for another 10 days, and then they emerge, chew a hole through the leaves, and then emerge as the adults, and then mate again. They'll fly around the top of the shrubs. But that all-in-one it will take care of the insects and the disease. So that's the all-in-one rose and flower, but you're using the shrub recommendation that's on the inside of the label. So it's an excellent one. Okay, so those are all my extra questions that came in. I'm watching the time. Ooh, I'm doing really well. Okay, now I'm looking at what succulents can you keep in a screened-in porch with no direct sunlight, or what other can I use? You cannot, well, the succulents to go into screened-in porch with no direct sunlight are permanent or plastic. Okay, all right. So and then other plants to use in a screened-in porch with no direct sunlight. Any of the shade foliage plants that we have in our greenhouses, or any of the shade foliage annuals we have would do beautifully in a screened-in porch with no sunlight. But don't try to do succulents. You will be seriously disappointed. Okay. Okay, last week we spoke about mixing flowers with veggies. Can you give example of good pairings, please? Yeah. Okay. Nasturtiums are wonderful flowers on the edge of vegetable gardens, and they'll cascade over. What is really fun, and I've got a good friend who wrote a neat book about vegetable gardening and making it a beautiful vegetable garden. But anytime you plant potatoes or sweet potatoes, they have beautiful flowers, and then put those on the edge of your flower garden, and you get the beautiful flowers. They tend to be purple color, and then you harvest the tubers and potatoes at the end of the season. Pretty fun, pretty fun. And let me see, great. I love any of the salvias. Any of the salvias work wonderfully in vegetable gardens, because they bring pollinators in, so you get better pollination of your peppers and your tomatoes and anything that needs to be pollinated to get the fruit. So and just like any of the annual salvias, any of the perennial salvias are excellent, to do that. Okay, let's move on. What's the name again of your clay soil enhancer? Okay, it's from the Espoma company, and it's called Clay Soil Perfector, Perfecter. You want the soil to be perfect, so it perfects the soil. So Clay Soil Perfector, and it's in kind of a golden yellow bag. That's the color of the bag. Okay, could you say the name of the vegetable garden fence again? I broke up. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, the vegetable garden fence we call it the rabbit fencing kit. And I know there's a better name for it, but all you have to do is just say you want the kit that keeps rabbits out of the garden, and everybody in the garden center will know where that is. And it's back where our staking things are. And I should know, it's either $29.99 or $26.99 for the 4x4 kit. And then then I've had it around my vegetable garden. Oh gosh, I think it's been 8 years now, and it never rusts. It just holds up, and it's just so easy to set up and take down. Wonderful. Okay, now what's the rule of three? Thank you. The rule of three. Okay, when you're talking about pruning, you can take a third of the height and a third of the oldest branches out, and you prune those down to the ground. A good example of this is a lilac. If you have a lilac that just hasn't been flowering very well, and it's all leggy means that all the leaves are up at the top and there's nothing down in the bottom because the branches have gotten real thick. So what you do is after it finishes blooming, enjoy the bloom. And I've seen landscape plants now out there, prune, and I prune it kind of in a dome, and I prune a third off of the length of all the branches. And then I go in and look at the thickest branches, anything that's larger than 1 inch in diameter, and I prune those off right at the base. And what you're doing is you're changing the ratio from top growth to root growth. And then the roots say, I don't have enough at top, and it pushes out new growth, and it'll be young, new wood that will flower better. And then it comes from the base, so you're going to have all these, beautiful, beautiful leaves at the base of the plant again. But you have to make sure you've got good, good sunlight. So that's the rule of three. And by anytime you want to, prune something, whether it's the top of the plant or the roots of the plant, never take more than a third, because if you take more than a third of either side, you put the plant into stress, and you don't want to do that. And you know, you can run out of stress. Okay, so now I'm noticing that, let me just see if I can do something. Oh, I'm doing the wrong thing. I'm looking to see if I can scroll up and down on this to see. Okay, there's the row. Oh, the email. The email for, you know, getting questions answered at Chalet is hello, HELLO, at chaleznursery.com. And what's great about that is it's going to a whole crew. It goes to our Chalet call center. And when it goes to the call center, it gets directed to the right people. And then it also gets monitored so that the questions do get answered. They don't get lost in somebody's email when somebody gets busy, like Jennifer gets real busy and doesn't answer her emails like she should all the time. So that's the neatest, newest way, and the neatest, newest way to, you know, to do that. Okay. All right. Oh, this is a big, long question from Christy Vick. What shrubs can I plant on the northeast side of my house? I've had hydrangeas and they're not working. I'm open to flowering plants or flowering of colorful shrubs. Beds next to this bed have Carl Forster grass and Wagelia fine wine. I like the sand cherry shrub, but don't want all the same colors. Wow, that's a 5-minute question. So, Christy, I'm going to get back to you on that one. I'm sorry to do that to you, but I'll get back to you and answer that specifically. Okay, and Susan's back again. Thanks. How can we get stuff from Chalet? I was hoping you would FaceTime, but I can't get through on the phone. Oh, I'm sorry, Susan. I'll contact you directly to set up a FaceTime, but I'll do that separately. Okay, how can you get rid of invasive phlox that is invading my butterfly garden? Is it creeping phlox or is it just regular garden phlox? It's probably creeping phlox. And with that being the problem, I would use the Natria. You know, use the Natria and cover up the plants you want to protect, and then just spray down the leaves, and that will do the trick. Okay, Jennifer, I love you. Oh my gosh, thank you. This is from Shane. You're a wealth of information and you make it all fun. Oh my God, that's so sweet. Thank you. Wow. Okay, and Susan said fantastic. Now, I've been asked to plug some things here for Chalet. We're going back online with our sales, and it's up again. When we were only open, for online sales and phone calls back at the beginning of the COVID, shutdown. Wow, we just felt burnt out our online shopping. So we shut it down and redid it all. So come back, take a look at it. It's really looking great, and we're not going to run out of plants like we did before. Well, I won't say that, but we're working with lots, with the quantity if we have it online. So you have fun coming back online again. Okay, so we are selling trees. Don't be afraid to come to us now to sell trees. We've got our planting service back up again, and the planting fee for any of our trees, any of our woody plants, is half the value of the plant. And then when we plant it for you, it's warranted for a full year for 100% replacement value. And that includes labor to change it if something happens to it within a year. If you buy a tree or a woody shrub from us and plant it yourself, it's still warranted 100%, for a whole year, but it's warranted for 50% replacement value. Everything is warranted for 1 full year. So it depends. If we plant it, it's 100% replacement. If you plant it yourself, it's 50% replacement. So it's a really good deal, really good deal. Okay. Now, okay. All right. Yeah, our new address, if you want to follow up with us, and I've repeated it several times, is hello@chaleznursery.com. And again, it goes to our call center, and we have it staffed with a whole bunch of people that are dealing with, and it's called the Zendesk. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you that, but it's kind of cool, the Zendesk. All right, and then all your questions go to hello@chaleznursery.com. And people are asking about the diagnostics, and like I used to always do, and we're doing that now through the plant information center or the plant information desk. We have 2 windows at our former nursery office, and you can bring samples there. And you can also send photos. You can send photos, and I'm pretty good about working with a photo. You give us a close-up of the leaves that are causing you problems, a distance photo of the plant so I can see how it's planted, and then what concerns you have, what is happening that you're concerned with, and we can do pretty well with that. If we need to have a sample to get into the microscope or under the microscope, we'll contact you back. But you can always drop a sample off, and we have our bag and tag system. If I'm not in the information center to run to the microscope with it and show it to the microscope, you can always leave a sample and I'll get back to it and call you back. So that's, and let me see. Oh, I did all of the plugging, and let me see what other questions we have. Okay. Okay, can you contact me to order a rabbit fence kit? Amy Barrow, yeah, I'll jot your name down and contact you and on this. Okay, so, and I'm sure you're in our system, and we'll give you, I'll get that info to you. So rabbit fencing, great. And then what's a good perennial ground cover? 3 inches or shorter for a sunny area. Ooh, wow. Okay, 3 inches or shorter. You know what? I like all the sedums. There's so many wonderful sedums that are out there that will stay within that 3 inch in a full sunny location. You have to make sure it's well drained though. If you don't have good drainage, that it's not going to work. But I like dragon's blood. It has a burgundy color with yellow flowers. There's there's a new form, Angelica, and yeah, it's Angelica. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It's a pale green, and it stays right at 3 inches. Angelica, excuse me, Angelica is the right way you say that, Angelica. And beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. We have that in stock right now. So I think this is really fun. I'm coming in the final stretch where we just have 3 minutes left, and I really like this new format. If you like the way that this worked, rather than having the PowerPoint and with me just kind of hopping on in and out, please let us know. Let us know that feedback, and let us know if you like how I handled answering the questions this way. And also let us know if you like, what we'll do each week is kind of talk about the 3 top things you need to do in your garden for the week. So we'll do the garden coaching, and then we'll answer all the questions. So I'm hoping, thank you. I'm seeing all your wonderful compliments. Thank you so much, everybody. This is great. Thank you so much. And stay tuned, and come visit us. It is gorgeous out there in that nursery. So really appreciate all your, I'm just seeing all these wonderful compliments. You all are the best. Thank you for staying with us here at Chalet. We all love you. I do a lot. So thank you so much, and thanks for this great support. Okay, bye-bye now. Okay. Thanks again.